We're back with the TLDR from our September DDoS report. Thanks again for joining me for another month.
Hey, David, glad to be back.
Excited to have you. September was a slower month for DDoS attacks in the grand scheme of things, but still billions of attacks seen every day, right?
Yeah, definitely. We didn't see that um, one massive attack that we've seen a few times this year in September. Instead, attacks were fairly evenly distributed by comparison.
Yeah, and in building the report, what I found was really interesting is we took a look at the biggest spike of the month, right, on September 22nd. And what we found is that the vast majority of the spike, similar to what we've seen in previous months, was attributable to a single attack, again on a median enterprise customer, again within the enterprise segment. In fact, 71% of the day's volume was attributable to it. And while in the grand scheme of things, it's not the biggest attack or the biggest day of attacks that we've seen, we took a deeper dive into this with our engineering team. And what we found is the velocity of the attack, or the requests per second, was incredibly high. We're talking over 15 million requests per second. Liam, any context on your end? What does 15 million requests per second mean to a website?
Yeah, it's a massive amount of requests, and what was interesting about that was how quickly the attack got up to 15 million requests. Right, I think it was under a minute, and then sustained that for an hour. Big scheme of things, maybe not a huge amount of time, but in fact, more than enough time to do significant damage.
Yeah, and just for context, right? In June, we saw the biggest day of attack volume we've seen the entire year. And that attack also primarily consisted of a single attack on an enterprise customer, but the peak RPS for that, granted it was over 48 hours, was just 1.7 million RPS. So we're talking this was next, basically, what we saw back in June. Um, what's also interesting about that attack is when we look at our accuracy of it, right? Obviously, massive attack, but you can't as a security vendor, you can't stop legitimate traffic in trying to attempt to mitigate that attack, right? As we went into our adaptive threat engine to examine the rules we created, what we found with our engineering team is that our rules were 100% accurate, which we're incredibly happy with. But with that said, we blocked 98% of the attack volume, which is really good. We're happy with that. And it's also indicative of kind of our stance within the DDoS space, right? We're okay having a level of the attack get through if we weren't confident that we could mitigate it without impacting legitimate customers. Now, obviously, we're going to drive towards 100%. That's our goal. But continuing to make strides towards it without impacting legitimate customers is incredibly important to us.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how we've engineered our adaptive threat engine, right? We don't want to disrupt legitimate traffic, and we have spent a lot of time ensuring that is the case. Now, with attacks, there's a lot of different forms that they take, different motivations. Some are, as you mentioned, in a more sustained, perhaps at a not a low level but a lower level. Others really go for that very kind of intense spike with different goals in mind.
yeah, definitely. To wrap things up, Liam, I would love to hear from you the actionable guidance that we include in every report. Any takeaways on your end?
Yeah, there's certainly a few for this month. It's no exception. We've seen enterprises in the media and entertainment space be more frequent targets of attacks. So just ensure that you're ready, especially if you're in that industry. Another is the trend of attack volumes being higher during school months continues. And we also expect that as many enterprises enter into their most critical period in November, December, that volume and frequency attacks may continue to rise. And the final one is to ensure that your readiness to respond to attacks is sufficient. Um, Even if an attack lasts an hour, how quickly can that response be in place? Do you have an automated way of defending against DDoS attacks, or another method that can really detect and mitigate as quickly as possible in order to limit damage?
Yeah, definitely. William, thank you so much for joining me. This was another quick TLDR on our September DDoS report. If you'd like to read the full thing, be sure to check out the description below. And I appreciate you joining. Until next time.